Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah, and that is not just an option, but that is the whole battleground. But I wouldn't say political class as sort of such. It's just convincing people of better alternatives. And in the most part, I think people are frightened of change. There's a fear of change because, of course, as an establishment, those in political power. And I'm not saying they're all, on the same side, but it's all leaning towards the right. And then again, these people who we consider people of authority, but people who, as I say, we shouldn't keep forgetting that have the interests of private equity at their heart. We say, we say in the Brexit thing, business leaders, they don't want to do it. Of course they don't. If there's an opportunity to make more profit, they'll be chasing that and only that. And they won't be talking from the heart about what's best for people. They're fixated on driving that profit margin for their stakeholders. So that is the only battleground. But I wouldn't say it's the classes, because it's a case of convincing people, not pushing each other away and sort of saying, well, because of what you just said, you're in a different camp to me. That conversation, what people are coming up with, even if it's fears, even if it's unfounded, you have to take that on and sort of say, yeah, I understand your position, I understand that fear and things like that, but let's just talk about, okay, how can we take that into account? And it's a little bit like, in business, I do a lot of business consultancy. We have this thing called, sometimes it's a bit old-fashioned now, black hat thinking, Edward de Bono's 6-hat method. Does anyone know? So, this is like this black hat method, is that you encourage people to criticise, or you encourage people to bring out those fears and that pessimistic thinking. Then you take it on board, and then you make it, you build around this sort of crisis management of that position. So, what I mean? What we tend to do as intellectuals, as I said, is we put ourselves in different camps. And those who aren't putting themselves in different camps, those who have come together and made agreements, are those with the wealth power at the moment. So that's the two juxtapositions.
Thank you very much. Any more people that haven't spoken, please? Any more questions? John.
Microphone, please.
John.
Yes.
Give them a microphone,
Please speak.
please.
Yeah, shall I? Oh, yeah, there is one. This is.
Yes, this looks like to me like an excellent socialist manifesto, and you've actually confronted quite a few of the difficult problems. They've not altogether explained how to get there,
No.
but you've been a bit shy of talking about historical precedents, because it sounds very similar to the Communist Manifesto and Lenin's original efforts, but as soon as serious attempts were made to apply this in a country which wasn't universally well, it was only developed in parts, it ran into a brick wall of opposition. As soon as the ideas were looted, with a lot of sort of local democracy and consultation and all that, it immediately triggered a Cold War. The capitalist powers were against it, and they were determined to choke it to death at birth. And so they had to develop, they had to militarize things eventually, because they realized that they would be finished otherwise, and they even had to, I think the capitalist powers threw everything they could at this nascent utopia, and they probably turned it into a militarized setup. It had to become that. It had to develop the power to beat off the enemies.
What's the question, John?
The question is, are you prepared to relate it to previous socialist manifestos? Because your ideas have a lot in common. You put it in a modern context, but the other question is, can I join your team?
To the last thing, yes. Please, have a conversation. Let's email this. I'd love to be in touch with everyone in this room, and then continue this as a project, as a developing the ideas. As far as like relating it to, as I understand the question, relating it to the notion of Marxism or Leninism. That was, yes, an alternative idea to what has developed in the meantime. I mean, that was the century before last for its core. I mean, firstly, I must say that, you know, I'm not an artist, and I don't think it offers anything for the 21st century in its entirety. I think there's, you know, some nice ideas. I think there's some terrible ideas within that 19th century philosophy now, the political philosophy. So, as you say, yeah, it may be leaning because it's perhaps, yes, it could be you may perceive it as sort of a new idea of socialism or something like that. But I think there's many ways. I mean, there's sort of technological revolution. I think it's tapping into that with the idea of direct democracy. We've only just achieved the technical ability to do something like that. So it is quite a different model, and it's not real. It's not perceiving all capitalism to be bad capitalism. You know, it's like we wrote that book, Good Capitalism, Bad Capitalism. I can't remember now, but you know, it's just that, you know, there are other ways. Capitalism, just that word means, you know, some people make money. Well, sometimes we all like making a little bit of money. It's not a bad thing to do. You know, but there are other methods for having, you know, having a great free market economy. Obviously within, you know, within the parameters of what we don't want to destroy society. I'm not sure if I answered that.
Any more questions, please?
Your talk was full of lots of very interesting ideas, but I wonder, is the majority of the population educated enough to take them on board, to know what to do with them? And the way children are being educated now, they're not even being taught to be I can't say it, societal.
Well, okay, so two of those, there's two elements there. Let me address the last one first, so I probably need to remind the first one. I do think that you say that young people are not being societally educated, but I just think there is a different medium for societal interaction.
They're not even being taught how not to shout.
I don't know, it does look like young people have their heads down, things like that, but judging from my own children, you know, grown-up children, sort of teenagers and that, they have a huge network of friends, and they take their friends with them from different schools and colleges and university, and they keep their friends with them. I mean, we couldn't, you know, I didn't grow up in a period where we could do that. If I moved house or something like that, you'd leave your friends in your old town and things like that. So I wouldn't suggest that. I think we're in a much more social environment. We're connected. People can connect all over the world at a touch of a button. They can have their words translated to each other. They can form romances with people in other countries. They can appreciate mutual interests. You know, if they both like Gothic music, you can link up with someone in Germany or Chile, you know, because you like the same band. So I'd say there is an increase in socialisation of young people. Rather than, you know, it doesn't look like it because they're all sort of staring at a little gadget, but it doesn't, when you're in a room with them, yes, yeah, my 20-year-old, I hardly get a good conversation out of them when I do it.
But how do they
Okay,
interact
thank you.
with people who are
There
not
was
their
a first
head?
part, yeah, hands, there's Richard.
There was a first part of the question though I didn't address.
Richard, on 1 second, please.
Because can you go back to
Martin,
that?
please.
And
Martin,
how do they
could you
get
please
people
be
who
quiet,
are not
Fiona?
their head?
Fiona, could you please settle down? Thank you.
We'll come back.
I wish you'd do away with the unfortunate usage of the word growth. I say that the unfortunate use of the word growth, whereas you might be happy to hear it from your accountant or a bank manager, I don't if you heard it from your doctor.
Interesting. Well, it is interesting. Sorry.
Also, growth, lack of growth is equated with failure. So it's like the dog chasing its tail. You've never got enough. It spawns greed insecurity,
Yeah.
and
That's right, and hopefully I am addressing that very same thing. The economist Tim Jackson talked about prosperity, not growth. So yeah, growth, the growth model, is about an increase in population size. Yeah, it's an increase in but my position is juxtaposition is about sustainability as a species on the planet. So yes, I would agree. We should be moving towards prosperity. And that, again, that doesn't just mean a piling up of cash in the bank and things like that. It means what you can do with that as a lifestyle, enjoying your life and things like that. Tim Jackson, anyone know Tim Jackson, the economist? His book, Prosperity Without Growth. So yeah, I am talking about an alternative model than chasing this growth of GDP, which is essentially encouraging population growth and encouraging what that population consumes, increasingly consumes. And it's not sustainable, it's trashing the planet. So yeah, I hope, I'm on the opposite side of that growth model, yeah.
Well, thank you. Reginald, I'm assuming they must be more interactive. I can tell by the way you're interacting with the audience. So please feel free to do that. And next question.
The whole foundation of this seems to be the idea of what people want. That's the start of your talk, and this referendum has demonstrated a few things to me, which is that's what you want people to want, not what people want. And I think the challenge is how do you move people and educate? I guess this is what you were saying as well. How do you educate people or move people towards being more humane or humanist, however you want to put it? Because everything rests from that point forward. Like your whole talk rests on those pillars, of which you just kind of say this is a consensus within society. This is what people want.
Yeah.
I would challenge it. It's not what people think they want or what they want.
Not that we perceive it, yeah. All right. And it comes down to this sort of thinking fast and slow. Sometimes you'll get a reaction out of people that's based on fear and, fictions that happen in their own mind. But when you knuckle down, when you have a longer conversation about, okay, what can we agree upon? What is our starting point? Even if you're talking to a racist or anything like that, and I'm not saying we compromise with racists or anything like that, but you find, okay, so what is your fear of that? And you'll find that people undo their own thinking, if you get what I mean. So you can build a foundation of what are the agreeable positions, I think. Maybe I'm not answering that.
Well, I think you can build it, but I don't think there's anything. You don't suggest how you can build it. I think you touch on things that we would.
Yeah.
Or at least broadly agree on. But I know that people don't have those things. I know people who don't.
Yeah. Well,
Those people who have, not all of those people, but a lot of those people who have gone from my family, from industrial world towns who voted because they're scared. And not just because they're scared, sometimes if they're selfish and because they're not bigoted.
But again, there is this fear, yeah, and there is undoubtedly xenophobia and things like that. But 48% of the people, 52% of the people, are not racist. That isn't the racist camp voting. So I think there's been a big problem.
What I mean is they're not those values that you say in your personal challenges that they are not.
Currently, yeah, okay.
Can we leave that to think about it?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Please give him the mic.
Can you please be quiet, Fiona? Thank you.
Essentially what I believe is like people are socialised into a way of thinking by society that to think divisively and to think economically and not compassionately. And obviously what he's trying to put forward is a politics of compassion, not a politics of, let's say, selfishness or corruption. But I hate to say it, but I think a lot of the established generations and people you know will be already socialised into that way of thinking where, like, you know, you have to be about yourself. You're not worrying about less ends, you know, human suffering. You're worried about how many next to put food on the table. But I think if you can concentrate, I know because I'm quite young, if you can concentrate on the generations coming to enact change, I think that could be a way, perhaps. Because, yeah, people will be stuck in their mind frames of, you know, I can't adhere to this because and they'll be fearful. But if you can teach them from a younger age to think in a different way, when they eventually become older, they can enact the change.
Yeah. So I think it's a case of promoting values, and our earliest attempts at social design have been wrapped up in religious context, when apparently Moses came down from a mountain and started dishing out some ideas that were picked up on, and it's become very popular. So this idea that, tell you what, let's not kill each other, let's not chase your neighbour's wife or steal their ox and things like that. So people agree upon, yeah, you know what, I'd like to live in a society like that. I'd like to relax and know that someone isn't stealing my ox or something. Do you know what I mean? So you promote values in society, and as far as possible, that's why I'm demonstrating that we need a written constitution. So we need to teach it in schools because it does promote these values that people do sign up to. Eventually, yes, I know, like, bad ideas take generations. I mean, they permeate slowly through society and become, a cultural kind of idea. Sometimes when they're a bad idea, as I mentioned earlier, some of the ideas of Herbert Spencer and things like that, I mean, there's no science of it. It was a pseudo-science of its time, but the science now and what we know of DNA, of course, it's completely rejecting those terrible ideas. I use that as an example. So it's just really the promotion of those values that have proved to work. And gradually you will get people to say, yeah, you know what, I buy into them. You're getting that argument with logics. And like I say, the framework here is to have this constitution, have a democratic system that is moving towards these societal aims. And you're saying it's wishful thinking, but if you design it that way, then hopefully people will buy into it. They'll say, well, shall I do that? It's like the success of Facebook. It means a lot to people, how they can chat with, see what their friends are doing and things like that. And it's successful because people find value in it, and so then they go with it as a design.
So just to clarify, it's not that I think it's impossible or that it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I just think what needs to be done is to get to that point before any of that stuff. And I just wonder, that seems to be the bit of the discussion, which kind of one of the reasons I came today, was because that's the bit of the discussion which I can't.
Yeah, especially in light of what we perceive to be the result of it, yeah.
That's a very good point, well put there. That's the question, is the hard problem.